Rania had always believed that life had a strange way of testing people. Some were tested with loss, some with loneliness, and some, like her, with heartbreak that left a quiet ache in every corner of the soul. When she joined the restaurant, Aroma, she didn't expect anything more than a job. Just a place where she could work, stay busy, and avoid the memories that followed her like shadows. But, Aroma was not just a restaurant. It was a small world filled with warm yellow lights, the soft clinking of cutlery, the aroma of rosemary and butter drifting from the kitchen, and customers whose laughter filled the evenings. It was a place where hearts sometimes healed without even trying. And it was there that her life slowly began to change without her permission. Every morning, Rania would arrive before the doors opened, her hair tied neatly, her apron perfectly pressed, and her familiar quiet smile placed on her lips like a shield. She moved gracefully from table to table, polishing glasses, arranging flowers, adjusting chairs, everything done with gentle precision. She spoke politely but briefly. She smiled, but it rarely reached her eyes. The staff liked her, respected her, but no one really knew her. No one except the newest addition to the team, Ayan, the restaurant's newly appointed manager. Ayan was different from the rest. He was calm but confident, firm but kind, serious but warm. From the moment he stepped into the restaurant, he noticed Rania. Not because she tried to stand out, but because she tried so hard not to. She blended into her surroundings like soft music in the background, easy to miss but deeply comforting once noticed. Ayan didn't ask about her past, but something about her silence made him pay attention. On his first week, he watched her handle a disgruntled customer with such grace that he couldn't help but be impressed. She apologized softly, offered solutions, and made the customer leave smiling, something even experienced staff struggled with. When the customer finally walked out, Ayan approached her and said, "You handled that perfectly." Rania simply smiled and said, "It's nothing." But Ayan could see it wasn't nothing. It was strength disguised as softness. Days passed, and Ayan found more excuses to talk to her. He asked if she needed help carrying boxes, if she wanted tea during breaks, if she was okay after long shifts. Rania always answered politely but kept her distance. She didn't want anyone to get too close. She didn't want anyone to see the parts of her that were still broken. But Ayan didn't push her. He was gentle, patient, and always respectful. That was what made her slowly, unknowingly, lower her guard. One late evening, when they were the last two people closing the restaurant, Ayan noticed her rubbing her wrist tiredly. "You should rest. Give me that," he said, taking the heavy tray from her hands. Rania blinked, surprised. No one had ever insisted on helping her like that. "I'm used to it," she murmured. "That doesn't mean you should carry everything alone," he replied softly. Those words stayed with her longer than she expected. A week later, it rained heavily, and customers left early. The restaurant became unusually quiet, with the sound of rain tapping against the windows. Rania stood near the glass, staring at the storm as memories tugged at her chest. Ayan approached quietly. "Does rain bother you?" he asked. She hesitated, then whispered, "It reminds me of things I try to forget." She didn't know why she said it. Maybe because his presence felt strangely safe. Ayan didn't ask more. He simply stood beside her, close enough for her to feel comfort, far enough to respect her space. That night, something shifted. Rania didn't feel as alone. Their bond grew slowly but naturally. Ayan started noticing the little things about her, how she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was nervous, how she hummed quietly when wiping tables, how she smiled more when talking to children, and how her eyes softened whenever she saw someone in pain. Rania, on the other hand, started noticing him too, how he always treated the staff kindly, how he never raised his voice, and how he remembered everyone's preferences. She noticed how steady he seemed, like someone who could hold her storms without fear. One Saturday, Aroma hosted a candlelight dinner event. The restaurant looked magical. Soft fairy lights hung from the ceiling, candles flickered on every table, and light music drifted like a whisper in the air. Rania wore a simple white dress that made her look like a soft glow in human form. When Ayan saw her, he froze for a moment. "You look beautiful," he said honestly. Rania felt her cheeks warm. "The lights make it look better," she replied shyly. "No," he said softly. "It's you." His sincerity made her heart feel something she hadn't felt in a long time, alive. During the dinner service, they exchanged small glances, soft smiles, silent moments that held more emotion than words ever could. The evening was perfect, until the lights suddenly went out. A power outage struck the whole block, plunging the restaurant into darkness. Customers murmured in surprise, candles flickered uncertainly, and for a moment, uncertainty filled the room. Rania felt a familiar rush of panic. Darkness had always made her uneasy. But before her breath could quicken, she felt a warm hand gently touch hers. "It's okay," Ayan whispered. "I'm here." His voice was steady, grounding her instantly. She exhaled slowly, feeling her fear melt into something softer. The candle flames around them created a halo of warm light, making everything look surreal, almost dreamlike. In that gentle glow, Ayan lifted her hand and held it carefully, like he was holding something precious. "Rania," he murmured, "I know you've been hurt. I know you've been alone. But if you let me, I would like to be the one who stays, not just in your good days, but in your storms too." His confession wasn't dramatic or demanding. It was soft, patient, full of genuine care. Rania felt her heart tremble. No one had ever spoken to her like that. She looked into his eyes and saw honesty, warmth, and hope. Slowly, hesitantly, she whispered, "I'm scared." Ayan stepped closer. "Then let me be the one you don't have to be scared with." Tears filled her eyes, not of sadness, but relief. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to believe that love could be gentle. She nodded softly, giving him silent permission to step into her heart. From that night on, things changed, not dramatically, not loudly, but beautifully. After closing hours, they started spending time together. Sometimes Ayan brewed tea and they talked about life. Sometimes they cooked small dishes together just for fun. Sometimes they simply sat in silence, feeling the comfort of each other's presence. Rania began to smile with her eyes again. She walked with lighter steps. Her laughter started returning in small waves. Ayan cherished every bit of her healing. He never rushed her, never pressured her. He simply held space for her, allowing her to rebuild herself at her own pace. One evening, months later, as they sat outside after closing time, Rania looked up at the dim sky and whispered, "Ayan, thank you, for not giving up on me." Ayan turned toward her, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "Thank you," he said, "for letting me be part of your world." She leaned against him, feeling his warmth surround her. Aroma had witnessed their journey from strangers to something quietly beautiful. It had seen her break, and now it saw her heal. Their love wasn't loud, it wasn't rushed. It was slow, steady, and tender. It grew like a simmering dish in the kitchen, softly, deeply, becoming more flavorful with time. Ayan kissed her forehead gently and whispered, "I want to build a life with you." Rania smiled, a smile full of love she thought she could never feel again. And in that moment, she knew she had found something rare, love that healed instead of hurting, love that stayed instead of leaving, love that grew with patience instead of pressure. A love she never expected, but one she now couldn't imagine living without. Hey everyone, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. I'd really appreciate it and it would mean a lot to me. Thanks for watch.